Welcome to the National Auto Sport Association National Championships here at Miller Motorsports Park in Tooele, Utah. A beautiful facility here as Ken Stout and Clark Camburn get ready to call all the action for you. Talk about a lot of different cars. We'll kick them off at PTB.
So James Holloway will start on pole in PTB. Greg Greenbaum second. Randy Smalley will start third, and Manny Coates is going to start fourth.
We'll have a lot of different classes out here, including PTC, Dennis Holloway, Ricky Johnson, and Sarah Cattaneo, who's running a couple different classes this weekend, along with Brady Flaherty.
And then PTD, Scott Shelton, Jeremy Renshaw, and Robert Davis will start third, and Derek Malcolm will start fourth.
And those are just some of the classes that are out here. We'll focus on them. PTE, PTF also out here. So a lot of different cars as they come down the straightaway here for the green flag. Watch these guys fan out, and gals, I should say, and they'll all dive down into turn number one. We are racing.
Yeah, so James Holloway in that silver and blue RX-8, he was on the overall pole, but it looks like he lost that lead to Greg Greenbaum, who's in that blue neon SRT4. Greenbaum has that turbocharged neon, was able to pull into the lead, so James Holloway will tuck into second place overall. And then we see third place is Dan Gardner in that Scion.
And Greg, pretty much the guy that takes care of all the PT classes. If you want to find out where your car fits into the rules, he is the guy that takes care of all that stuff. So actively working inside the sanctioning body along as racing.
That's right, and we should say that PTB is a little bit quicker than PTC. C a little bit quicker than D, so basically NASA looks at your car, what modifications you've done in some cases, how fast the car is stock in some cases, and sort of classifies it based on all of those requirements, and so you're able to sort of fit in wherever your car happens to be going. Perfect example of that, James Holloway is running PTB in an RX-8. His brother Dennis is running PTC in an RX-8, and then Robert Davis, their teammate, he's PTD in an RX-8. And we're watching these are the PTE and F cars getting the green, so that's going to be the 7 of Randy Evans will take the lead in that sort of race group. They're actually starting separate from the other race group, and then we have little motorcycle-powered legends out here as well, so we may see them zipping around.
Yeah, there's a lot of different cars. We were talking about that on the top, so we watch these Mazdas, and the Miatas can go through these first couple of turns pretty much flat out if they have the car set up right. We go back to a PTC car on board there with Dan Gardner in lap number 1, and looks like he's going through windup right now, the last right-hander. This is release, and kind of pinches the entry of that turnoff just a little bit as he hits back onto the straightaway.
And Dan Gardner is going to be in the lead overall in PTC in that Scion TC. Beautiful car. It's silver, yellow, and black, turbocharged Scion. So Dan having a real good run, has a pretty good gap on second place. And we can see James Holloway closing again on Greg Greenbaum. Greenbaum in a front-wheel drive car. That RX-8 that Holloway's running is a rear-wheel drive, so be a good example of sort of the difference between those two cars as the race goes on.
You can see the entry to the line through the turn much different, but Greenbaum does have some great power inside of that car.
That's right. Yeah, those SRT4s, it's kind of a I guess you wouldn't think of a neon as necessarily a race car, but those cars came out a few years ago. They were running them in the World Challenge, and it had a lot of success in the touring car division of World Challenge. And so Greenbaum bringing one out, and obviously very quick, especially in the start, able to pull into the lead. So clearly that turbocharged Nissan has some horsepower.
And we saw a quick look at the Mini in there, Ricky Johnson, and right behind him we'll also find a Camaro driven by Brady Flaherty out of Wilton, California.
And that's Randy Smalley. He's in that other Mini with kind of the wing on the tail. A little bit difficult to kind of keep track of all these guys. Brady is in that yellow and black Camaro, and then we see Dennis Holloway, the other Holloway brother, courtesy of mothers, those two, and he's going to be running in I believe third or fourth place in PTC right now, so he's having a good run. Brady Flaherty running in third place in PTC, trying to hold off Holloway as they make their way around for the second lap.
And those RX-8s, they stop so good. I mean, just awesome brakes on them. Good race cars. They give up a little bit of torque with that style of engine that they have, but once you get them wound up, I mean, this track should really be pretty conducive to that RX-8 once he gets that thing up to operating temperatures.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for those viewers who aren't familiar with RX-8s, it's a rotary engine, so it's a completely different style of engine. As we see Holloway trying to make a bid for third place on Flaherty. Totally different style of engine, does not have pistons. It has kind of triangular-shaped rotors. Behaves a little bit different, but they make a lot of horsepower in the higher RPMs, and they're very, very light. It's a very compact, very light, very interesting engine. So you'll see those RX-8s make a lot of top-end torque and really good, fast race cars all around.
And it looked like a little bit of dust out there on the track from some of the competitors from behind those guys. So obviously somebody having an off and kicking some dirt onto the track, which can always prove to be interesting. Last time you threw that turn, everything was great. This time, oh man, a little bit of slippage. So, but they both get through there nicely. And Holloway with that RX-8, like you were speaking of in the PTB class here, still right on the back bumper of Greg Greenbaum, doing a great job.
Yeah, looks like we have a little bit of weather moving in. In fact, I see a few raindrops on Holloway's windshield there, so that could factor into this whole event. Whether it starts to rain or cools off a little bit could affect the handling of these cars. And we've talked about this before with as much dust as is out here. If a car drops a wheel off or the wind kicks up, it can really change how a corner is.
So Greg Greenbaum with a great line through Black Rock Hairpin. That was the left-hander back before the right-hander. Now going through what they call witchcraft and about to enter the attitudes. A left, right, left, where you use all you can get right there. You can see up over the rumble strips, and it does upset those cars, so you have to be careful with it.
And Holloway just dogging Greenbaum at this point, closing hard, just trying to find a way by. Holloway was on pole, probably a little bit quicker than Greenbaum, but Greenbaum has been able to hang on for the last few laps, so we'll see if Holloway's able to take advantage as his tires heat up.
Lap time's right there for Greg. I mean, the car very, very fast. And, it looks like for Holloway, he's happy, content right here. It's a long race. The leader right there in front of you. Just maintain and keep the pressure on. So he's forcing Greenbaum to stay perfect at this point.
That's right. He's in the catbird seat, and you saw
nice run there.
Very good run. Yeah, strong run off that corner. Kind of a drag race now. We'll see that turbocharged Nissan, that turbo spools up.
Oh, yeah.
That thing makes a lot of horsepower, and the Neon SRT4 is just able to pull away. So Holloway's got to be a little frustrated here. Got a really good run. Probably should have been able to make that pass stick, and just not quite enough top end now.
And that's always cool. I mean, it's great to watch this battle between a car that handles a bit better versus one that has just a little more horsepower. That's the beauty of the PT classes, is they get these things that are in here that are drastically different. Front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, rotary versus piston. It's so cool to watch these combinations that are so drastically different, but yet so very, very close in lap times.
Absolutely. And I think the challenge for Holloway, or the thing that he's got to start thinking about is, with the front-wheel drive car, we've talked about this before, it's always about saving the front tires, and that's one of the advantages he's going to have, is if he can get Greenbaum to overdrive a little bit, maybe lock up the brakes in a few spots, and burn up those fronts, then he's going to have a much better shot at making his way by later on in the race. So his challenge right now is to be consistent, not make mistakes, and really push Greenbaum as hard as he possibly can.
I think another issue, which you kind of spoke of before in previous classes in regards to the Mini, with the supercharger producing more power, I think the same case here. While with the turbocharger, we're not necessarily talking about losing horsepower with excess heat, but what that turbocharger will do is put a lot of stress on that engine that typically doesn't have that in its stock configuration. So you have to worry about longevity when you start shoving that extra air in there and all that extra pressure on the pistons, rods, crank.
Sure thing. Now we're checking back in. It looks like Brady Flaherty has fallen to Dennis Holloway. So Dennis now moving into third place in his, or second place, I'm sorry, in PTC. Dropping back to that red and white Mini, which is Sarah Catano. Talked about Sarah before. She's run a bunch of different stuff this weekend. Was in a BMW, and now she's running a BMW Mini. So Sarah having a good run as well.
Congratulations to her out here getting some great seat time and providing some great competition. Did a great job a little bit earlier on as well. So a heck of a driver.
Yeah, and again, Randy Smalley just ahead of her in that red Mini with the wing on it. Randy Smalley also, Smalley's actually in PTB, so He's set a bit back, so he's actually between those two PTC competitors.
And again, a great look all the way down that extremely long straightaway. Pit road just off to your left, so if they do have any trouble, that's where they would pull in, and you pull off on that last left-hander to get into pit road. Relatively long way around to get on pit road. You will lose a lot of time, and of course these sprint races, if you have to pull on the pit road and there's no caution flag out there, it pretty much ends all chances to win.
That's right. Now we're keen on this orange car. This is actually Manny Coates. Manny ran that car last year in Honda Challenge 4, brought it out for one of the PT categories, and just behind him is Ryan Flaherty, NASA chairman. Ryan's run a bunch of different classes with that car as well.
Yeah, pretty cool. I mean, when you have a car that durable, and those Hondas are that, as we spoke of before, I mean, they're just bulletproof, it seems. You know, it's a lot of fun to come out here and really get some great seat time. Watch a Ford product, which, you know, you look at the Mustang on your daily street driving, you think relatively light, you know, small to mid-sized car, but out here it looks like a big beast.
That's right. Yeah, that's Kevin Margetta and that Silver Stang. He's a PTC competitor, so running towards the back of the PTC field right now, and Ryan looks like Ryan's given a pretty good run to Manny Coates as they circulate in those two CRXs. Those are some of my favorite cars. They're kind of boxy looking. They look like an old shoe kind of, but I just love those CRXs. I've always been a fan of those cars, and they make excellent road race cars. They just real light, short wheelbase, and handle really well, and as you said, very durable. And a lot of NASA competitors bring those CRXs out of the mothballs and make really good race cars into them.
Yeah, and they hurt the feelings with those guys with the Camaros and the
right.
Mustangs. You know, this little Honda Civic driving by, it's like, hey, man, what's going on here? But they are good little race cars. You mentioned before, too, it's about power to weight ratio, and that's why those cars are so good. They're very lightweight, they're very nimble, they handle very well.
That's right. So looks like Holloway's pulled out the lead on Greenbaum. So Greenbaum has now dropped back into second overall and also second in PTB. James Holloway leading the way now, so looks like he found his way around that SRT4, and we'll see if Greenbaum can hang on to second place or potentially challenge for the lead once again.
Yeah, I think Holloway's car, as we talked about before, just a better handling car. This track a little more conducive to that RX-8 if you can get the position. So once you take the position away early on, going into the turning sections of this course, then the horsepower car is at a disadvantage.
That's right, and you could see Greenbaum kind of close back up while they were going down that chute, but then when they come out of the corner, that's really where the rear driver is going to have an advantage. It's going to be able to put down power a little bit better, be a little bit more aggressive with the throttle, and sort of pull that gap as they exit the corner, and that's what we're seeing here. And we talked about this before as well, where this is a longer race than these guys have run all week. They ran a couple heat races to get to this point. Those were shorter races, and to a certain extent, they may not have a real good feel for how their car is going to behave. And it looks like Greenbaum may be off the pace.
Another thing, too, that these guys are all experiencing for the first time is it's our first time here to Utah. Miller Motorsports Park is running at elevation. So maybe some of the guys in California have dealt with some elevation throughout their years or their career, but for the guys out of the Midwest, for the most part, they have not. And you lose a lot of horsepower when you come here. It changes a lot of things. So it's a big learning curve when you come here to elevation, and the barometer is drastically different, so consequently you're going to lose horsepower. Granted, we all lose it the same, but some people feel like the turbocharged cars have a small advantage when it comes to that because they're going to continue to stuff that air in until they get to their max boost.
That's right, and as we said that, Greenbaum pulling off, so obviously something going wrong with that SRT4. So Greenbaum pulling off the track. We're going to have to take a quick break. Unfortunately for Greenbaum, his day is done. That's going to leave Holloway in the lead. We'll be right back with more Performance Touring Racing right after this. The National Autosport Association Performance Touring B, C, and D National Championship is brought to you by Dzod Motorsports, where they are performance. Church Automotive Testing, the champion's choice for dyno tuning. And Toyo Tires, driven to perform.
Craig Burnett, lead chemist.
Professionals and car enthusiasts all talk about how well Mother's Clay Bar works. You may think your paint is clean, but a simple touch will tell you otherwise. If the surface is not smooth as glass, you need the Clay Bar. Just spray, clay, and wipe away. Our Clay Bar shears off and removes harmful embedded contaminants, leaving your paint perfectly smooth and clean, paving the way for final waxing. Mother's Clay Bar system. More value, more clay.
Welcome back to Miller Motorsports Park for the NASA National Championships. We are covering the PT classes here today, and PT standing for Performance Touring. And then, of course, there's different levels inside of that category, B, C, D, so on and so forth. A number of different cars and classes out here competing.
And on board with James Holloway, who's our overall leader and also the PTB leader. James had a challenge early from Greg Greenbaum, but as we saw just before the break, Greenbaum having a mechanical problem of some kind, had to pull off, so that's left James Holloway way out in front with no challengers. Second overall is Dan Gardner in that silver and black Scion TC. Dan is also the overall leader in PTC. You can see him with his lights on there. And then we have Robert Davis and Jeremy Renshaw both having good runs in PTD as well. So keying on Dan Gardner right now. Again, Dan Gardner having a real good run in PTC, way out in front. And our overall leader, James Holloway, his brother, Dennis, is running second in that class right now. So see if Dennis can challenge for this lead before the end of the event.
We had a great onboard camera shot there before showing you some speeds and a tachometer there as they go through some of the gears, well over 100 miles per hour by the start-finish line with half a straightaway to go. And Gardner making a nice pass there on a slower classed car.
It's an old RX-7, I believe. Some of these cars out there that are running in performance touring E and F, you know, they started 30 seconds behind this lead group, and then they're also running a little bit slower. So as the event goes on, we'll see these guys start to pass through those lap traffic as they come up on them.
Great front and rear shot out of that car, and once again we'll go back outside and take a look here. And yeah, a really beautiful car too. Great colors on that car, and needless to say, doing its job perfectly.
That Scion is really hooked up. Neat little cars. I've always really liked those cars when they first came out. I really like the styling. Of course, that's a Toyota make. Toyota's tried to break into sort of the youth market, and I think they really hit a home run with the styling on that TC, and obviously a pretty neat little performance car as well, as it's Dan's doing a real good job with that car this weekend.
Coming here into Black Rock Hairpin, tight left-hander, and releases out, right back into a right-hander. And a short shoot as they'll head down a little bit further into a right-hander that's called Witchcraft, which is all but flat out. If your car is handling right, wish I was in the right part of the track.
That's right. Yeah, that was actually
I was first looking at it, I'm like, hey, what's it? Is that, I don't know if that really looks like Black Rock.
Yeah, so coming onto the front straightaway here, there was actually release as Dan Gardner worked his way onto the front straight. You see his lights are on. A lot of guys do that as they're working their way through traffic, and it's just sort of one of those racing things. It's a way to signal to other drivers that I'm a faster car, I'm coming, and sort of be heads up for me. So dropping back a bit now to Ricky Johnson. Johnson's, I believe he's second in PTC right now in that Cold Stone Creamery Mini.
Got one of them out there, potato planting.
Yeah, that's right. Somebody's gone off somewhere around the course. See some dust out there.
Crop dusting. And that is, there's the car there. And, it is so dusty when you get off course here at all. I mean, basically in the desert. And another one way off to the side out there.
Another car off. Wonder we may have some fluid down or something in that corner, because now we've lost two in the same spot. Can't get a number on that car off to the right, but looks like he may be planted there for the day.
Another one way off the track out there. And yeah, I mean, we're definitely having some issues.
Yeah, something's going on over in Scream there. I think probably what happened is that first car that went off may have blown an engine, got some fluid on the track, and these guys are hitting it without really expecting another one off.
Absolutely. I mean, that's absolutely what's going on here. You see one, okay, two, what's up? 3, 4, 5, there's issues. There's something on the track there.
Yeah, so we may see a full course caution from the NASA officials because they're going to want to get that cleaned up. Whatever fluid is down in that corner, another car going off there, whatever's down in that corner, they're going to want to get that cleaned up and get everything back to normal so we can resume racing. So we'll see what happens here as we continue to focus on this corner, see if we have any more carnage here.
Yeah, fortunately, nobody crashed into each other. I mean, you spin out there. I mean, there's no reason to think that another car is going to do that in the same exact spot, end up in the same exact area.
Yeah, that's always the scary part when you go off like that, and in some cases you might be stuck on track. Here we go. This is full course caution is out. So the safety car will come out on track. We'll bunch up the field. We're going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, we'll hopefully be ready to go green flag racing again with Performance Touring. The National Autosport Association Performance Touring B, C, and D National Championship is brought to you by Tooele Motorsports, where they are performance. Church Automotive Testing, the champion's choice for dyno tuning. And Toyo Tires, driven to perform.
Craig Burnett, lead chemist.
Professionals and car enthusiasts all talk about how well Mother's clay bar works. You may think your paint is clean, but a simple touch will tell you otherwise. If the surface is not smooth as glass, you need the clay bar. Just spray, clay, and wipe away. Our clay bar shears off and removes harmful embedded contaminants, leaving your paint perfectly smooth and clean, paving the way for final waxing. Mother's clay bar system. More value, more clay.
All right, once again, we are back here in Tooele, Utah, after a caution flag incident there. Unfortunately, some fluids out there on the track. We had some oil, it looked like, on the track there in turn number 3. They call it screaming. Plenty of people were screaming as they went off the track here for the NASA National Championships. Hopefully we'll get this PT class, multiple classes in PT, restarted.
Yeah, and we see the lights are off on the pace car. That is the signal that we will go green this lap. So once again, James Holloway will lead the field. That car just behind him is actually a Legends car, a little motorcycle-powered car. So James is going to lead that car and the rest of the field down to the green flag. Of course, whatever, these cars aren't necessarily in running order. They're just sort of in order that they were on the track. So we see some lap cars are mixed in with the leaders, and they'll sort of all take the green together. So green flag is out, and we are back to racing.
And as you would expect, they fan out here looking for some positions. If you can get somebody to go with you down deep and stay in line, you can keep that arrow.
And here we go. That was Dan Gardner with his lights on, and just behind him is Ricky Johnson. That is per position. So that Mini Cooper S of Ricky Johnson trying to spool up and tuck in behind the Scion TC of Gardner and see if he can challenge for that lead.
Gardner lifting up that left rear inside tire, and when he was going through turn number 1, it's pretty cool to watch those chassis go to work. They're nice and stiff, but they still need a little roll to flatten out that tire. Great battle, though, man. Ricky Johnson all over the back bumper here.
Ooh, be careful, Ricky. Got out in the quick dry a little bit. Was able to hang on, and just behind them is Dennis Holloway in that green RX-8. So Dennis trying to get a piece of this PTC lead as well.
Ricky doing a great job, not following him down low. He's going to run the preferred line here to see if he can get a run off. That Scion, though, seems to be building some steam.
That Scion is very, very quick, has a lot of horsepower, comes off the corners very well. I think the Mini handles a little bit better, gets into the corner better, so we'll see who can come out on top here.
The Mini hung right with him there through that turn, maybe even closed up the gap a little bit. You can see Holloway right behind him with the RX-8.
Yeah, Holloway is lurking. He's waiting for a chance to pounce here. We've seen this before in other classes. Sometimes if you're patient, you wait back in that third position. The two guys up front get to fighting, and you're able to just move through and take the lead.
Yeah, you can really see the Mini shining right here through the tight section of this course.
Yeah, the Mini very, very quick through the attitudes. You can see again that Gardner pulls out the lead a little bit, but then the Mini closes right back on him under braking.
Oh, and Holloway way off the track there through Tooele turn. Takes him half the straightaway to get it gathered up and back on.
And that was a mistake for Holloway. He's going to lose some time there. Maybe fall back into the clutches of Flaherty, but at any rate, he will not be in a position to pass these other two cars coming around this lap. Got to be kicking himself a little bit for that, as Ricky Johnson once again tries to get a run on Dan Gardner as they come onto the front straightaway.
This is where Ricky's going to take a beating. I mean, he hung around through all the turns, but he wasn't able to get the position. So now here will come the big horsepower out of that Scion, and he'll try to gap him some.
That's right, yeah, and you can see the Scion. The Mini's kind of hanging in there in the draft, but you can see the Scion's just pulling that lead out as they run down the straightaway. So Dan Gardner making his way back into turn one. He's going to be the leader for PTC. Once again, the car out front is PTB leader James Holloway. The red Mini is Ricky Johnson. He's second in PTC. And then just behind them, that green and silver RX-8, that's going to be Dennis Holloway, and he is third in PTC. So Topps podium spots are all right together on the track in PTC. And, again, Ricky Johnson closing back up as they make their way through the corners.
Ricky Johnson out of Queen Creek, Arizona, with that 2003 model Mini. Runs in the Arizona region. Of course, Dan Gardner out of Redondo Beach, California, running in the Southern California region. Another one way off the track out there. You can see all the dust and dirt flying.
Yeah, looks like we lost another one in Scream. Hopefully no fluid on the track, though. Hopefully we'll be able to continue. And it looks like now that things are starting to get pulled. Oh, we have a car off.
Yeah, it looks like a Mazda RX-8 there. And some damage done to the front of that one. So a tough ride through Scream. You see it is fired up.
Yeah, I believe that's the number 15 of Scott Shelton. He was a PTD competitor, I should say. And unfortunately, it looks like left front damage, maybe a ball joint tie rod on that car. And he has it running, but I don't think that thing's going to go anywhere.
Yeah, he tried to get the clutch out on it a couple times, spinning the rear tires. That one is done. He'll need the hook.
That's right, and the laps are winding down on this course, so hopefully we'll get back to racing here in a second. And I think that car is far enough off that we'll be able to continue on without having to go to a full course caution.
Robert Davis here in PTD.
Davis, I believe, is leading PTD right now.
And it looks like the same exact design that that was on the RX-8 that was sitting out there in the dirt. So.
Yeah, yep, kind of confusing. There's a bunch of RX-8s with very similar paint schemes on them, but Davis actually is part of a Robert Davis Racing team, and the Holloways and Robert Davis and a number of other cars all run out of that shop. So Robert has kind of a neat sort of a co-op of a team where everybody sort of pitches in and helps out and works on each other's cars and drives a transporter and all that sort of thing. So meanwhile, we have a good battle between Manny Coates and Ryan Flaherty. That's going to be for, I believe that's PTC honors, or no, PTB.
Not the guy you want to put a bumper on?
No, well, yeah, I suppose you wouldn't want to get Ryan too upset. Ryan is chairman of National Autosport Association, so maybe it would be abuse of power, but I suppose Ryan could make sure that you were duly punished if you messed with him too bad.
My guess is he doesn't have to say anything. I think right. The troops wrapped around him would protect him. So
yeah, we joke, but I'm sure Ryan understands it's all just racing. At any rate, they're having a good race. They're racing for third and fourth right now.
Oh, actually, nonetheless, I mean, we kind of joke about putting a bumper on them, but you just don't see too much of that out here. I mean, it can get pretty aggressive towards the end of these races, but for the most part, they race very clean, very little damage, very little dirty driving, if you will, that goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been really impressed with all that throughout all this racing, is to see all these guys being pretty patient and really taking care of each other. It's one thing to race wheel to wheel, and in the heat of battle, sometimes you can be overly aggressive, and I think we've seen everybody give each other room and be real patient with each other, and that's what makes for good racing, when you can trust the guy you're next to in a corner. So once again, Sarah Catano, talked about her earlier, that she's going to be running in the World Challenge race next weekend. She's having a real good run, and just ahead of that red Mini.
White flag out, 1 lap to go.
So 1 to go once again. James Holloway has the lead overall. Just behind him, Dan Gardner with his lights on. Gardner's opened up a bit of a lead over Ricky Johnson, so Gardner has a little bit of breathing room there. And Dennis Holloway still challenging for that second spot just behind Ricky Johnson. Hopefully we'll drop back to them in a minute as we follow James Holloway around on his final lap.
The Mazda looking sweet. I mean, those RX-8s are great-looking cars.
Yeah, they really are. They're beautiful little cars and kind of a neat concept. You know, not many sports cars out there that actually have a third door. They have the sort of the suicide door on one side and a little bit of a back seat, which is kind of nice for those of us who are have kids or thinking about having kids. So one of the few sports cars out there that you can actually do that with, and obviously. Very fast, very racy little cars. I was talking to Robert Davis, who runs this team that the Holloways are on, and he told me that they really don't do too much to these cars to make them race ready. He said, they're really excellent cars. They handle really well right out of the box, so there isn't a whole lot they need to do to make sure that they're ready to go and very competitive. Oh, it looks like
side-by-side action back there again with Holloway and Johnson, it looked like.
Yeah, and it looks like Holloway made it around Johnson, so Holloway moving into second place in PTC as they made their way through Ridgecraft. So great run by Holloway to take over second spot on the last lap.
Hanging in there. This is where Holloway went off a couple laps ago, and looks like he gets through there cleanly this time.
So Holloway will lead Johnson heading into these last few corners. And really, honestly, with this kind of lead, I think Holloway is safe. You got to be wondering if he'd had a few more laps, if he'd have been able to challenge Gardner for the overall win, because we can see here he's really closing up on Gardner in these last few corners.
Yeah, definitely found some speed here in this last lap. Boy, driving aggressively.
Just not quite enough. So checkers will come out. James Holloway going to come home with the win, and Dan Gardner will lead Dennis Holloway to the win in PTC, just ahead of Ricky Johnson.
Great stuff. Congratulations to everybody here as some of the other classes are still coming across the stripe.
And that's Brady Flaherty. He's going to come home in fourth in PTC. A few of these other cars, Sarah Catano, Jay Carley. Great racing, good stuff from all these classes, all these different cars, and good to see. And we can go ahead and do the rundown, I think, as these cars continue to cross the line. So James Holloway will come home with the win in PTB. Randall Smalley is going to end up second. And Manny Coates will end up third in PTB.
In PTC, Dan Gardner doing a great job, gets the win, followed by Dennis Holloway. We just saw that. A solid run. And then Ricky Johnson rounding out the top three.
And then in PTD, we mentioned Robert Davis a little bit. He's going to come home with the win in that class. Jeremy Renshaw will end up second. And Derek Malcolm will end up on the third step of the podium in PTD.